and it's their intrinsic
And they found, this food basically robs
sounds, food, or sound like. First, the eye of the moon, it was Wajet. This is where it comes from. So now understand this. Whoever created us human beings, created us with reptilian DNA. A lot of you have heard of the reptilian brain. That is not just a saying, that is a real thing. Understand, when you look, you can look at, just history. Look at some of these people who have been born with these scales and reptilian-like skin. Look at your own skin. This is my fist right here. You can see like the reptilian little freckles or reptilian little indentations on your hand. We have webbed hands. That is indicative of reptilians. We have been mixed with this reptilian DNA and the DNA of whoever the other creator is. I get into that a little bit in part 3 and maybe a little bit in this video. But understand, this whole third eye, where does that come from? It has to do with the reptilians. Now remember, I said that they worship the reptilians because of parthenogenesis. Now we know the copperhead snake can reproduce itself without a mate. We know the Komodo dragon can reproduce itself without a mate. We know that these ancient women was reproducing themselves without a mate. But also, you have the Toratura, which is a reptile that has a parethial gland or a pineal gland that has a retina, a cornea, and a lens. It has an eye. It looks like an eye. This is what their pituitary gland looks like. Now look at the heads on top of a lot of these reptiles, these lizards. You can see it looks like an eye. Take a look. So now in this whole thing of opening your third eye and awakening your third eye, we can see it comes from this reptilian, that eye there. But also we have a pineal gland, we know this, and it is really important. So now understand, this thing is about dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine. If you ever heard of a hippie saying you tripping, or when we say, man, you tripping, going on a trip, this is what it's talking about. Dimethyltryptamine. It is a very high potent drug that is naturally produced in the brain, produced by the pineal gland. It is actually a substance that you can buy. It gets you more high, 10 times as high as any drug you can name. You name a drug, it'll get you 10 times higher than that drug. It is the most illegal drug on the planet. And the whole thing is our brain produces it naturally during the sleep state, and it produces a high doses of dimethyltryptamine right before you die. Now the thing is this, you can also find dimethyltryptamine in plants and in reptiles. You can find it there, find it in them as well. The same in them is the same in us. This is the whole thing. This is the reason why the ancient Egyptians worshiped the cobra, the reptile, because they understood it is a part of our nature. We share that with them. The women shared it as far as parthenogenesis, and we share it as far as our DNA. Now understand, whoever created us with a sort of time clock that has to do with our melanin. At some point in time, our DNA is going to be activated, and this is how whoever created us wanted it to be, it seems like. But we have a chance in life to awaken this whole DNA and awaken this third eye before that time comes. And that's what I was talking about with the whole, meditation and everything like that. And this is what the ancient Egyptians actually did. This is why the reptilians wanted to get that information. They want to get it, one, to possibly bring back their loved ones, their lost ones, the old ones, the people who died, but also to escape here and escape from what's going to happen. So now understand, I'm try to bring this whole thing to a close because I'm running out of time. Part 3, I'll bring it all together. So understand, you had this reptilian race who came up through so many different lines. They went to war and they intermarried with so many different races. We're talking about African people who was on the throne, I should say. Not racist, but mainly African people, because we ruled all over. When they came into England, it was a war that was fought there. They won't tell you this. As I said, the conquerors write the history books, not the conquered. but they intermarried with these black kings, and they usurped the throne and eventually took over. The Germans and these people are all the same people. You got to understand. The whole thing is, it's a big trick that is being played on the white race. And this is what I was talking about earlier, that you got to get this information to understand what's going on. So now understand, your Bible tells you exactly who the enemy is. It is the Jew, the people who you have, people have read about and said that, they are the chosen one, and people who these Hebrews think they are. The whole parable of the thing is they basically took our story, they took us, our history, and they kind of reversed it. So in the beginning story, it's kind of sort of talking about us and what we have went through, and then they make a switch where they insert themselves in our story, and they take, the credit of the chosen one. But it's another story behind that, and that might be another video I have to do as well. But understand, the Bible is telling you who these people are. Remember, it says that the Jews are a synagogue of Satan. They are like they father the devil. Who is Satan? The dragon. Who are we talking about? These serpents, these shapeshifters. So when you look at who was the main culprit of slavery, it was the Jews. When you look at who's running everything, it's the Jews. When you trace the bloodline of the royal families, it all goes into Judaism. The Germans and the Jews are the same people. Plain and simple. These are Jewish families. The Rockefellers, all these people, the Warburgs, the whole Rothschilds. These people come from Jewish families. This is the line, this is the bloodline I was talking about that survived. That's what these people are, this whole royal family who intermarries with each other. We all know this, they all intermarry. I'm not the only one saying this, just look at the headlines. People all over are talking about it. They are reptilians, they come from the same bloodline. It's like, when you do the research, you can't hide it. One of the mottos of the occult is the truth must be revealed. So they have to, as part of their whole thing, is to reveal the truth. If they keep things secret until a certain time, but then they reveal the secret after the agenda has passed. They always done this, they always do it. This is why when we go back now, we look at old movies and we say, oh, that's what it was talking about. Remember, Back to the Future, all these other movies that predicted 9/11 that we now realizing after 9/11 was accomplished was talking about 9/11. The truth must be revealed is one of their mottos. The truth must come out, which is why it seems like they just telling us they hold secrets, but it's not. It's part of their motto. The trick would be for you to figure out what they're going to do later in the future. And they also allude to that, but you never know exactly what they're going to do. So understand what I was saying before. They have tricked the white race. So let me make it more clear for people to understand. You had African people at some point breed albinos, which albinos we know became white people. You had these serpent beings or reptilians in the breed with these white people for whatever reason. Maybe they couldn't breed with us because of melanin, I don't know. But they chose to breed with this white race. This is all before this flood or whatever destruction happened on the planet. So after that destruction happened, you had white people, you had black people, you had Asians or what have you in caves, living in caves, coming out with no knowledge of anything. You had these now descendants of the people who went into these caves and went underground coming out. We have found these tunnel systems and caves all around the earth. We know about this stuff. But you had them coming out with no clue of what happened in the past. Some stories was passed down, which is why we have the little bit that we have today. But they basically was restarting civilization. You got to understand this is what took place. Meanwhile, you had this bloodline who plotted and schemed, and they came up and they came from underground with this plan. They united this white race again against us, black people. This is why everything is the way that it is. They do not want us to remember everything. There is something that they do not want us to know. It's not just who we are and what we can do and where we come from. It's something that we will remember in the future, or something that we will be able to do. Now, it's people talking about, this planet going to the fifth dimension, or, and all that kind of stuff. Possibly that's what it is. But like I said, I don't really like to speculate too much. I try to go with the information, but that's exactly, it makes sense. It fits. But for some reason, they got to keep us oppressed. So think about it. If you do not want us to remember who we are, what do you have to do? Look at what happened. You had the Egyptians come out and start remembering. They started building pyramids. So then we know they conquered Egypt. They enslaved the Egyptians and did whatever to them. They got the Persians or the Arabs to have the whole slave trade that happened and enslaved black people, thinking that it would keep us from, remembering who we was by taking us out of that Egyptian culture. But then as I made the video about the accomplishments of African people, I made that for a reason. So you can see that even though that happened, we still see that the Africans had kingdoms and civilizations. Kingdoms and those terms and everything like that, we know that came from the ancient world. They started to see things from the ancient world. So they was like, oh damn, these Africans are still remembering. We have to do something. They got in good with the Africans. And then the Chinese invented gunpowder and they created guns. If they never created guns, we would still be ruling. If we had a chance to create guns for ourselves, we would still be ruling. They would not be able to defeat us. It's because of the gun and the cannon that they was able to defeat us. So they said, you know what? We have to enslave these Africans. So we can instill in them and be in them a whole different ideology, and it has to stick. This is why the whole sickness, all the sick things that they done to us in slavery was so that we will not remember. They took the Songhai Empire. They created these religions. That was the first thing, to try to get us out of the Egyptian thought, to put this whole thought of religion that they created in us. And that's what happened. We got into Islam, we got into Christianity. It was all to keep us from remembering the Egyptian stories, the Egyptian religion, or the Egyptian culture, to keep us from remembering who we are. Slavery happened. They beat that information into us for hundreds of years. So it's almost embedded in our DNA. It's in us. It's in us. And you see how we are today. The white man is God. We for hundreds of years worship this white man as God. And the whole thing is they're tricking the white people today because they look like them. And they got these white people to think that, they are on the side, on the winning team. But they are showing you what the future is that they want. They want most of these people dead. That includes white people. They want black people out of here, and they want a whole slave race or some kind of slave mentality where people are chipped, where they control everything. So I know I'm babbling on. I'm trying to get this information out fast as possible because I'm running out of battery. But this is where all the information is taking me, and as I said in part 3, it's going to all come together a lot more. You have to understand they have been throwing the whole reptilian shape-shifting symbolism in our face for years, and we didn't realize it. Remember the TV show Dinosaurs? Remember how in that TV show the humans was kind of like stupid? Remember the father in Dinosaurs, his name was St. Clair. Now when we know St. Clair has to do with the oil family. When you look at the logo of that family, it's the dinosaur. Remember St. Clair Oil, you see the dinosaur. Well, St. Clair is actually Sinclair. Sinclair is actually St. Clair. His name was Sinclair in Dinosaurs, the TV show, but it alludes to St. Clair, which is the family we know from the Knights Templar, the ones who supposed to have built the church in Roslyn. The whole thing, what the whole movie, Angels and Demons, not Angels and Demons, the whole Da Vinci Code movie was talking about, all that stuff is real history. Some of the stuff I was talking about St. Clair's and the church and the Knights Templar, we find all this stuff in antiquity. But it's weird how whoever created the TV show Dinosaurs was trying to tell you something. It was a spin-off. Now, when you go back and start watching that TV show, you can pull a lot of stuff from it and see how it fits. But it's called Dinosaurs. Sinclair is alluding to the family of Sinclair, the whole oil family. It's supposed to be, he's trying to tell you something. These people are from the bloodline of these reptilians, trying to tell you. But look at the other movies. You have the whole movie was The Enemy Mine, with Lou Gossett Jr. playing this whole reptilian looking thing from the Draco constellation, who, remember with Dennis Quaid, he had the child, remember? He was the man who produced the child, parthenogenesis. He had the baby, Zebes, that Dennis Quaid had to take care of. Dennis Quaid was in another movie about dragons, and he was in another movie where he had to fight this shape-shifting serpent at the end. I forget the name of it. I think it's Dreamscape or something like that. But understand, all the dragon movies, all the serpent symbolism is everywhere. So they have tricked white people into believing that they are a part of this whole thing. And the whole thing is, if all the stories are true, if the myth is true, the thing that white people need to do most is to get some melanin in them so they can get out of here. So the whole thing with this planet and all the energies on it, well, the energies who are right on it, going to the fifth dimension and everybody else staying here, I mean, this is hell. This is what your Bible is trying to tell you. This is why in the movie Constantine, hell was earth. Remember when they go to hell, it was earth, it was on earth. It's trying to tell you something. This is what it's all talking about. As I said, the movies are the new scripts. They are the new Bibles. All these movies are trying to tell you something, just like the Bibles they wrote was trying to tell something. They are conveying their story everywhere. So you have to think at some time they had to wonder if they were the only reptilians on the planet. You hear stories about reptilians everywhere. There was a whole magazine column that came out about an underground civilization of reptilians in California or something like that. I remember I was reading something about that. So this stuff is all over the place. It's everywhere. It's hard for people to believe, but it's been in your face your whole life, but you just ain't recognize it. Go back and look at all the movies about reptilians or snakes or shape-shifting, and you will understand that they put this stuff out for a reason. Look at all of the women who had taken pictures with snakes around them. This is telling you something. You have Rihanna, you have Madonna, you have a bunch of celebrities showing you this symbolism, and we attribute it to the Garden of Eden, and Eve, which is what you should be, it symbolizes the snake having sex with the woman though, but it's talking about this whole story. A lot of people would never put this stuff together, but this is what I do. And part 3 is really going to bring everything together. Also understand, when you look at Hollywood, when you look at how they make these black actors wear dresses, and this whole sex ritual that everybody talk about when it comes to the boule and all of that, what is that indicative of? It is the reptilians making fun of who we really are. They know we are all really women. We are all born females. Remember, they are mocking the war that they had with the men for women. So we see these reptilians, or we see the white man taking the black woman, or we see the destruction, of the black woman. You see what they are trying to do. This is all about us, men, being women, and they use that in these whole rituals, trying to show us who we really are. It's a way of them putting us down and saying, you are beneath us, you are just women. A lot of people couldn't put their finger on that whole thing. What is that all about? Why do men have to do these things to get into these secret societies? Why do men have to have sex with men? Why are they trying to feminize men? It's because they know who we really are. They know our nature, that we are all women, and that this planet was full of nothing but women. And when they came here, they probably had their way until the male was created and we dominated them. This is why they do what they do. In order for you to get fame and fortune in their society, under their rule, they're going to make you do some despicable things. Now, I have nothing against gays or lesbians or anything. As I said, we were all born female. So you got to understand that the whole gay thing is about when you don't secrete enough testosterone when you are created. This is how men become gay. It's because they lack testosterone, and it was not secreted. Enough wasn't secreted when they was being created, when they was in the womb. Also, another thing I want to get into, remember, you hear about these giant black beings from Saturn. That's something I'm gonna get into in part 3. So if you have these giant black beings from Saturn, and you have these reptilians. If you put them together, you probably get us. This is something that the movie Prometheus was trying to allude to. Remember, they had that giant being, except he was white. Of course they're gonna make him white. He should have been all black. So Saturn was the planet that they passed. We know Prometheus is the moon of Saturn. This is what all that was talking about. It's talking about these giant black beings from Saturn, but I'm gonna get into them in part 3. So now, understand, I know it's going to be hard for a lot of people to accept this because of the whole reptilian thing, but you got to remember, we had dinosaurs rule this planet for millions of years. Who created them? We don't know how far they evolved or what they became, but somebody created dinosaurs. For what purpose? What purpose? We don't think about the rest of the animals that was created on this planet. We share this planet with a bunch of different species. Who created them and for what purpose? You got to understand that. So now I'm going to get into this a lot more in the final video. There's a lot I left out because of time, but part 3 is going to bring everything all together. And I want to thank everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys next video. So there's a lot more deeper, a lot more to come. Thanks for watching.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Look, you got to really look at certain things because, say for instance, the holiday that just passed, Independence Day. Independence Day is really based on, say, George Washington and the Americans fighting against their oppressor, Britain. And we celebrate that. We tell them they're right. You get it? But when an African fights back, it's wrong. But every time a European fights back against his oppressor, he's right. But soon as an African tries to fight back, why is that? So we got to start questioning our mindset. Let's go with the history. 100% of revolutions, of victims fighting their oppressors, from victims fighting their bullies, 100% have been successful through fighting back, through bloodshed. 0 have been successful just over simply protesting. It has never worked and it never will. Revenue and blood. Revenue and blood. Revenue and blood. Nothing else. Her knowing the rights is not going to stop anything. You got to stand on your rights. You see, that's what separates me from the 7 billion. And that's why I'm so powerful, because I stand on my rights. Knowing your rights is nothing to a bully. It's nothing to a demon. It's nothing to a devil. You got to stand on your rights. Just like George Washington did. Just like all the other white rebels that they say. You know what I mean? And we celebrate and salute. You look up. You get up. And don't ever give up.
So in the wake of the horrific ambush in Dallas, a former Miss Alabama is now facing severe backlash over this video that she posted at Facebook, where she called the Dallas shooter a, quote, martyr. Watch this.
Hi, Facebook. I'm just reaching out to everybody because I'm just leaving church, and I prayed a lot about everything that's happened this week, and I can't stop replaying the image of these men being killed in my mind, and my heart weeps. But I think more than anything, I'm dealing with a bit of guilt because I don't feel sad for the officers that lost their lives, and I know that that's really not my heart. I value human life, and I want to feel sad for them, but I can't help but feeling like the shooter was a martyr, torn up in my heart about seeing these men, these black men being gunned down in our community, that I can't help. I can't help but feel like I wasn't surprised by what the shooter did to those cops. And I think a lot of us feel the same way.
The thing about this country is that all of us are entitled to their opinion. My ancestors died so that I can express my feelings, and I feel very sad for what happened.
You believe the shooter's a martyr?
And people don't have to accept them. People want to hang on to that word because there are racist people out there who want to use that word to push their racist agenda.
I'm asking you a simple question. Do you believe the shooter is a martyr?
I honestly am just so sad that those people lost their lives.
I don't feel sad for the officers that lost their lives.
I don't believe in any cause that takes innocent lives, regardless of what that cause is.
Do you believe that the shooter is a martyr, like you said?
Do you?
No, I do not. No, not in any way. I think the shooter was evil. I think he killed innocent people in cold blood.
He was evil. I agree.
He was a terrorist, but you called him a martyr. Why?
Well, you know, a lot of the people, the terrorists, that's how terrorism is born. You know, when you think about people in other countries who believe, and religions use this rhetoric to convince them that going out and killing people is right for their cause. They say, you're going to be a martyr. And I believe that that's what Micah Johnson really thought. But he's not a martyr to me. He doesn't represent my feelings. He doesn't represent my cause. I would never, ever condone or support anyone who took the lives of innocent people, whether they are officers, whether they are...
Hit her now. And she grabbed me off the couch by my hair and started hitting me. And
23-year-old Mariah Pointer is bruised and still shaken from what happened to her last Saturday night. She says what started as a fun night of drinking with her two best friends turned into a nightmare. Mariah says her friend started beating her after she accidentally sat down on one of the girls' hamburgers.
And then they held me down, took turns, thumped my face in, did all kinds of things.
Mariah says the beatings went on for 2 hours. She went in and out of consciousness several times. The beating was recorded and uploaded on the internet, including the website World Star Hip Hop. It's a site known for posting shocking videos. You can see them hitting her in the face repeatedly, stomping her in the head, and pulling her hair, all while a man sat on the sofa holding a 3-year-old child.
What was going through your head, Mariah, when that was happening?
I knew that at one point I thought they were just going to kill me.
Finally, the girls gave her phone back to Mariah, and she called her mother. Mariah has fractures on her face, 2 black eyes, and 2 of her teeth are broken.
Because I don't think anyone deserves that. I can't understand it for nothing. It cannot be about a burger.
Police say one man is in jail and they're searching for another in connection with cruelty to animals. Police say they watched a live video on the internet of these 2 men throwing fireworks at dogs chained in a backyard last Friday. Police say one dog tried to hide in a shelter, but then the men threw fireworks in there anyway. Officers were eventually able to determine where the acts took place and arrested 25-year-old Tevin Anderson. They're still looking for 21-year-old D'Angelo Roseborough. By the way, animal control officers took the injured dogs to a vet. They're expected to be okay.
Away from my daughter. You took her away and now they have to pay. I will not be able to sleep until I get justice. I need justice. I need peace. I want justice. I want peace. I want justice. And even after justice, this will never go away. No one comforted me. No one comforted me. All they said that this is not their department. The BCA came hours after they removed me from the scene. So when they come forth to preserve and protect, so when they come forth to preserve and protect, so when they come forth to preserve and protect, at the time as our hands is in the air, he asks for license and registration. My boyfriend carries all his information in a thick wallet in his right side back pocket. As he's reaching for his back pocket wallet, he lets the officer know, officer, I have a firearm on me. As he's reaching for his back pocket wallet, he lets the officer know, officer, I have a firearm on me. I begin to yell, but he's licensed to carry. After that, he began to take off shots. But, don't move, don't move. Okay? Set him up. I'm Trayvon Martin, you Trayvon Martin. We're Sandra Dean, you're Sandra Dean. Okay? Set him up. I'm Trayvon Martin, you Trayvon Martin. We're Sandra Dean, you're Sandra Dean. So that the world knows that these police are not here to protect and serve us. They are here to assassinate us. They are here to kill us because we are black. We don't support each other enough, so they feel like they can take us off the list. And it's not okay.
I mean, it's her avenue to communicate.
Diamond is a narcissistic Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat junkie. I used to tell Diamond all the time, you know, you take 50,000 selfies. You probably post 20 million posts in 2 minutes. She will bump Jesus off the timeline, you know, and I would tell her all the time, you got to stop posting so much. So she would block me off of Facebook. You don't want to see it, I'm going to block you. She would block me.
It's a Facebook post that's received more than 1,000 likes.
Yeah, I post a picture of me in uniform just saying how I love my job, I love what I do.
Spencer officer Chris Tate says the response is mostly positive.
Saying thank you, stay positive.
But a Philadelphia man sent Tate numerous private messages, so vulgar we can't show them.
It was more threatening messages saying that, hey, he wants to see my dead body on the news, like officers in Texas.
The African-American man blaming Officer Tate for not doing more to stop white officers from killing black people.
We are out here doing our job to the best of our ability. We are in the community, helping the community, trying to change people's ideas and what they think and how they feel about law enforcement.
He hopes that will forge a better relationship between civilians and cops.
I just hate that he feels that way.
Now, I reached out to that poster, and he has yet to respond. Both the Spencer and the Philadelphia police departments are working together in this investigation. Reporting live tonight, Patrina Adger, KOCO.
Man in Troy facing charges for making terrorist threats against a police officer. WSFA 12 News anchor Valerie Lawson is in the control room now. Val, what do we know about that situation?
Well, John, it all goes back to social media. Troy Police Chief Randall Barr says the man posted some comments after the police shootings in Dallas, calling out several police officers. Now, 20-year-old Javon Pryor is charged with making terrorist threats against a police officer. His bond was set at $50,000, but because of the nature of this charge, the judge suspended it pending a revocation hearing. Pryor is still in the Pike County Jail. In the last 2 years, Pryor has also been charged with assault and attempted murder, so Troy police are not taking his threats lightly. Mobile police made a similar arrest. They say a man there posted pictures of a specific officer telling his followers to, quote, shoot first if that officer...
New at 11, a Richmond City Council candidate raising some eyebrows tonight after disparaging comments about police on Facebook, calling them thugs, criminals, and pigs.
Montague Magruder is running for Richmond's 5th district seat, an area that includes Carytown and parts of the Fan. Magruder is speaking out tonight to our Chris Thomas. Chris?
Well, I can tell you, Sabrina, people have not been very surprised by this thing because this guy has been unapologetic the whole time. Look at this. He even has this on his Facebook page with words we can't say on TV. Take a look at what he's saying now.
I stand by everything I write, everything I post.
Richmond City Council candidate Montague Magruder taking to Facebook, slamming a picture of a police checkpoint, saying, look at these thug criminal pigs. They should be arrested or run over, accusing officers of blocking traffic, harassing people, and making them late for work. Magruder says the post comes in response to some on social media calling for Black Lives Matter protesters who blocked traffic on I-95 here in Richmond this week to be run over.
Vicious comments with profanities and threats to run people over for protesting in the middle of the highway. Something that Martin Luther King Jr. did when he led protesters across the Edward Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama.
Still, Magruder's own followers questioned the move, saying, you're running for public office. You have to watch what you say and how you say it.
If all lives truly matter, then nobody should be calling for that kind of rhetoric. And that is the overall point that I have been trying to make.
This all comes as the Virginia flaggers went above and beyond to show their support for police. Keep in mind, this so-called Virginia flaggers mobile unit is actually an old news van. It has a 70-foot pole, and they've replaced the Confederate flag with the thin blue line.
This is an opportunity for us to show that as the Virginia flaggers are not a one-trick pony. We do a lot of different things, support different causes. This is the first time in my life I've ever had a cop stop to come up to me and give me a hug.
The fact is, a lot of our Confederate flagger people are either former policemen or current policemen.
Virginia flaggers tell me this will not be their last time flying the thin blue line flag across RVA. After the recent attacks on law enforcement, Barry Eisenhower says the message is simple.
We got your back. We're behind you. We appreciate their devotion to their duty protecting us.
You agree some of these statements are controversial?
I agree they are controversial. Trump is saying all kinds of controversial stuff in order to get people to pay attention to his issues.
So when it comes to things like suggesting police should be run over?
It mostly was satirical points, but I still stand behind the underlying premise of calling into question the fact that we have DUI checkpoints that, for the most part, in my opinion, are unconstitutional.
Now, the Virginia flaggers tell me they plan to set up in Byrd Park this weekend to continue showing their support for police. For now, on your side in the social media center, Chris Thomas, NBC 12.